Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today. Another video, another new backdrop, and also another update here on the Xbox Activision deal. I know we've been tracking this one closely. Many of you have naturally tuned out at this point, and I can't blame you. You've all said, you know what, I'll wait for an actual major update to come along because this has been too much of a roller coaster ride for me. Well, today is your day. We have something truly significant to talk about when it comes to Xbox and the FTC and Activision. For those who haven't been paying attention, Xbox and the FTC have been duking it out in court. That concluded about a week or so ago with a lot of tea being spilled, like new Xbox exclusives being revealed. It was all riveting stuff, but all of this was done in the name of trying to, in Xbox's case, prevent a preliminary injunction from being granted for the FTC. What that would have effectively done, long story short, is killed the deal. So this was do or die for Xbox, and today we learned that Xbox has won the case in court, meaning that pretty much they're going to accelerate this deal and close it within probably the next week or so. So after hearing about this deal ad nauseum for about a year and a half now, we're finally at the concluding stages of it. So we're gonna dive deep into everything that's happening today. Naturally, there's gonna be many more updates as we go along this month. So bear with me, I'm warning you in advance, we're gonna be talking about the deal a lot. But today, let's go over the absolutely major news here that Xbox has won this case against the FTC and all the details spilling out of it, including now things changing between the UK CMA and Xbox. It's funny how that happened. I have many thoughts on it all, but ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here, you're into Xbox or Activision news, updates, coverage, all that stuff, you're in the right place. Consider subscribing. Starting with an article here from The Verge, Microsoft wins FTC fight to buy Activision Blizzard. In a ruling submitted by Judge Corley, they said the following, quote, Microsoft's acquisition of Activision has been described as the largest in tech history. It deserves scrutiny. That scrutiny has paid off. Microsoft has committed in writing, in public, and in court to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation for 10 years on parity with Xbox. It made an agreement with Nintendo to bring Call of Duty to Switch. And it entered several agreements to, for the first time, bring Activision's content to several cloud gaming services. This court's responsibility in this case is narrow. It is to decide if, notwithstanding these current circumstances, the merger should be halted, perhaps even terminated, pending resolution of the FTC administrative action. For the reasons explained, the court finds the FTC has not shown a likelihood it will prevail on its claim this particular vertical merger in this specific industry may substantially lessen competition. To the contrary, the record evidence points to more consumer access to Call of Duty and other Activision content. The motion for a preliminary injunction is therefore denied. Continuing on, Phil Spencer said on his personal Twitter account, we're grateful to the court for swiftly deciding in our favor. The evidence showed the Activision Blizzard deal is good for the industry, and the FTC's claim about console switching, multi-game subscription services, and cloud don't reflect the realities of the gaming market. Since we first announced the deal, our commitment to bringing more games to more people on more devices has only grown. We've signed multiple agreements to make Activision Blizzard's games, Xbox first-party games, and Game Pass all available to more players than they are today. We know that players around the world have been watching this case closely, and I'm proud of our efforts to expand player access and choice throughout this journey and thread. So yeah, a little bit of a victory lap, quite frankly, because this was the major obstacle blocking the deal from going through. The report has been that with where the CMA was standing, isolated on their own, Microsoft was going to stampede right over them and close this deal regardless. It was really about getting approval by the FTC. You naturally need the US approval because that's your biggest market as it stands. While Xbox is trying to grow globally, you need the US audience. You need the FTC's approval. They were the major opposition here, and for Xbox to win is nothing short of huge. Now, I've seen a lot of people popping bottles, getting really excited, and I think for good reason. You know, this is finally getting toward the end of it all. But there are still a couple of hurdles to get over here. Nothing that seems too worrisome, but I thought Tom Warren, who's been all over this case and has done a phenomenal job covering it, had a really good synopsis of it as we carry it into our next talking point. So let's see what he had to say in a pretty big novel over on Twitter. So what happens next with the Microsoft's proposed Activision Blizzard deal? The FTC has to make a decision whether to appeal by Friday night. If it walks away, as it normally does, then Microsoft is free to close once the CMA negotiation is complete. Otherwise, it's up to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals to decide whether it will halt the deal. I think the focus is on the CMA right now, though. Microsoft and Activision have agreed with the CMA to pause the appeal in the UK and try to work out some changes to its deal that will appease UK regulators. I'd expect CAT agrees, and we'll see a cloud gaming remedy in the UK here, allowing the CMA to get a result like the EU did and for Microsoft to finalize and close the deal. It's all going pretty quickly now as the deal deadline of July 18th approaches. That's why I said we're going to be all over this. This is going to be happening in rapid fire fashion. Man, did Xbox pick a horrible week for this. I've said it a million times, so I apologize. But I'm moving. So, I'm trying to move all these boxes and go back and forth to the new house and this office and my place. Oh my God. And they say, yeah, this would be a great week to close the deal. How dare they? Come on, Xbox. But in all seriousness, this is where a lot of the attention is going to shift, because now with the deal deadline being July 18th, all parties smell the blood in the water, so to say here, including the CMA. They folded friggin' quick, dude. I don't know how else to put it. They were the biggest opposition, right? I remember leading into the deal, right? When they were going to approve or deny the deal, the CMA seemed like they were going to approve it because people were focusing on what they were saying about Call of Duty. They didn't agree with PlayStation's stance on Call of Duty. But we always warn people here, Defining Duke, watch out for that cloud gaming. And that's where the CMA stood against Xbox and moved to block the deal. So things were looking mighty spooky for Xbox at that point, because we already know that the FTC in December moved to block it, then the CMA. But when you saw how many trips were made between the FTC and the CMA to visit one another, you could tell there were politics in the mix here. I'm sorry, I know people don't like that type of conversation. I'm not trying to say it because my Xbox was about to lose. Y'all know where I come from when I talk about this stuff. You could tell there was a motivation here to get a big win against the biggest tech merger in history, right? Everyone would have politically gained. And now we can confidently say, I didn't want to speak too much on the matter because you never know with politics, as I said in an old video, where this is going to go. But the FTC got dismantled. Let's be real. Now that they've lost and we know who truly won, Xbox was practically dissecting them. And honestly, when Judge Corley was questioning the FTC, some of their answers were so mind-bogglingly bad. I couldn't believe that they were this ill-prepared. But as many lawyers were saying online, and even myself, I was feeling like you just never know. But now I can say for certain, wow, Xbox absolutely destroyed the FTC in court. And it's kind of surprising because, again, with all the political motivation to block the deal, you had to screw up pretty bad to miss here, and they did. But now with the CMA, like I said, they folded quick after this. So let's see what Brad Smith had to say and how the CMA is responding to all of that. Brad Smith posted on his personal Twitter account this message. After today's court decision in the US, our focus now turns back to the UK. While we ultimately disagree with the CMA's concerns, we are considering how the transaction might be modified in order to address those concerns in a way that is acceptable to the CMA. In order to prioritize work on these proposals, Microsoft and Activision have agreed with the CMA that a stay of litigation in the UK would be in the public interest, and parties have made a joint submission to the Competition Appeal Tribunal to this effect. So what does that mean? Well, let's read again another article from The Verge here. Microsoft and UK regulators agree to pause their Activision battle to negotiate. The CMA confirmed the decision in a statement to The Verge, noting that the regulator is ready to consider any proposals from Microsoft to restructure the transaction in a way that would address the concerns set out in our final report. The Competition Appeal Tribunal will need to approve or deny this request, but it's more than likely that it will be approved to allow both parties to negotiate further. The CMA did try to file and delay Microsoft's appeal of the Activision Blizzard acquisition decision, with a request right in the middle of the FTC versus Microsoft hearing. The CAT shut down that request as it would have pushed the appeal process from July to October, contrary to justice and fairness. And now we even have accounts claiming that the deal could close as soon as Monday. We'll see how fast all of that moves. So remember what we said about PlayStation a while ago when we were having a conversation that mostly circled around just PlayStation and Xbox slinging mud at each other and had nothing to do with the FTC or the CMA or any of these regulatory bodies? We talked a lot about how PlayStation had to have known, okay, this deal will likely go through. They know it's not an exclusivity play. That was confirmed through leaked emails in the FTC court case, and that they're just trying to get what they can out of the deal. Now, I think that's what the CMA is going to try to do here. They, as the last standing smidge of opposition here, that will naturally suddenly negotiate when they weren't going to before, is going to try to get anything possible out of Xbox. So yeah, it's going to come down to concessions, and I don't expect much here at all, quite frankly. But that's the position, for those who were paying attention to that earlier conversation, that the CMA finds themselves in now. But Xbox, I can't say, is playing, from my point of view, with a ton of power here, because they now see their opening, right? Again, that light at the end of the tunnel, and they're going for it, right? They're going for it. That's why immediately they're like, we don't agree with the CMA, but we're happy to negotiate. And the CMA is like, yo, wait, the FTC, our brother in arms is down. Oh no, okay, yeah, we'll negotiate too. Don't worry. Yep, because it's as good as over at this point. Just some standard approvals and whatnot have to be done. Of course, though, we need to have one leak to wrap all of this conversation up. So there was a memo sent internally around Microsoft that came from Phil Spencer. Here's what he had to say to employees of Microsoft about this deal. Quote, today, a U.S. District Court judge issued a decision denying the Federal Trade Commission's request for a preliminary injunction, which would have temporarily blocked our acquisition of Activision Blizzard from closing in the United States. We're grateful that, upon a review of the evidence and witness testimony, the court rejected the FTC's claims that our acquisition would harm consumers. The evidence showed the deal is good for the industry and that the FTC's claims about console switching, multi-game subscription services, and cloud do not reflect the realities of the gaming market. After today's decision, we are turning our focus to the UK. As you may be aware, a few months ago, the UK Competition and Markets Authority recommended that the deal be prohibited. We disagree with the CMA's concerns and have challenged its decision on appeal. At the same time, however, we are considering how the transaction might be modified to address the CMA's concerns in a way that is acceptable to the CMA. In order to prioritize work on potential options, Microsoft and Activision have agreed with the CMA that pausing the appeal now would be in the public interest. And both we and the CMA have made a joint submission to the Competition Appeal Tribunal to this effect. From the beginning, the gaming leadership team and I believed that this acquisition will meaningfully benefit players and the gaming industry. Since we announced our intent, our actions have demonstrated our commitments to bring more games to more people on more devices. This includes numerous signed agreements to make Activision Blizzard's games, Xbox first-party games, and Game Pass all available to more players than they are today. I'm proud of our efforts to expand player access and choice throughout the process. This deal has already been cleared to move forward in 38 countries, and we will continue to work toward timely resolution in our other jurisdictions. Thank you to everyone who has devoted their time and dedication in support of our acquisition. We embarked on this deal with a clear vision for meeting players where they are, and with today's decision by the court, we take an important step forward in bringing this vision to life. Phil. So yeah, some stuff that we've seen before, but really I thought the concluding point was noteworthy because now it's about action, right? When the deal gets closed, it's about action. You got to reflect a bit on what we saw with what happened with Bethesda, where immediately we got a splash of games in Game Pass. What is that going to look like? There's a whole separate conversation to be had on all of that. But now it's going to be about action. I'm curious what plans fall into place. And naturally, we saw one thing that really paved the way for Xbox in 2022, which ended up being 2023, was the Bethesda acquisition saved their tuchus, so to say, with the amount of exclusives that are coming out this year. Hi-Fi Rush. I know Redfall was an L, but still Redfall, as well as Starfield. These are three major Bethesda games coming out this year, and without them, you would have a year from Xbox with just Minecraft Legends and Forza Motorsport, which is all too familiar to Xbox fans. So with that, now you have Activision coming in. What exclusives do you get granted with that? I mean, it is an exciting time, but I still stand by the fact that this deal is clearly done for the mobile division, and hopefully the revenue generated from that can fuel some cool passion projects and really take Xbox to the next level. Nonetheless, though, the deal looks to be wrapping up. I'm sure there will be some type of Xbox Activision roundtable. We'll talk about all of that. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. And with that, let me know your thoughts on the latest update here on the Xbox Activision deal. I am looking forward to your thoughts. Fire away. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.